Now, we're going to welcome to the stage Satyan Gajwani. He is the head of business development and head of digital strategy for the Times of India, which is the biggest media company in India, biggest across print, across radio, across online, and across newspapers, and television, of course. So we're delighted to have him here with us. He is actually from Florida. So he grew up there. He's moved here relatively recently. He splits his time between Delhi and I think, is it Bombay or Bangalore? From Bombay. He's a passionate fan of the Miami Heat, which for those of you who know what basketball is, you'll know that's a complicated team to be a fan of. And he's struggling to learn Hindi, and we're going to welcome him to the stage right now. Come on up. Let's give him a big round of applause.
Hi. Thank you all for your time and for being here. My name is Satyan. I work across the digital strategy for the Times Group, and maybe one thing some of the people who don't live in India may not know is we're a little bit different when we talk about our digital strategy than a lot of other media companies. We do have our traditional brands like timesofindia.com and economictimes.com, which are major drivers for us, but we've tried to build a very diversified media business that probably is 20 or 25 different businesses sort of compiled into one. So for the sake of today, I'd like to sort of focus on three major ideas: entertainment, commerce, and content. And to me, these three are particularly important, at least for me, because they seem to be undergoing rapid elements of disruption, and they're changing every day. So, without wasting much more time, let's jump straight to entertainment. Right? So, when we think about entertainment, there's three things that really matter. How do you keep it? How do you find it, and how do you consume it? How do you watch it or listen to it, especially audio-visual entertainment? Now, when we think about how we keep it, the big move has clearly been to the cloud. Right? The older days of downloading individual songs or theoretically individual movies has shifted towards giving consumers immediate access to millions of songs and thousands of movies. And we think that's an amazing change because you no longer need local storage to be that limiting factor. When we think about discovery, the fact that I now have access to so much content means that the online platforms that give me access to that content now have a really unique opportunity to recommend things for me. And they recommend things in a few ways, but some of the major ways that we've seen are using algorithms that understand my consumption habits and use that to give me an experience. And then the increasing pervasiveness of social networks and using social recommendations. Now, while we've always had offline recommendations from friends, someone told you to buy a CD or whatnot, the amount of recommendations you can get today with scalable systems like the internet is a totally different scale. And then when we talk about consumption, the obvious statement that everyone here would say is it's going to be about mobile and it's going to be about tablets. And that's definitely true. You see smartphone growth at very large percentages, and there's no doubt 5 years from now this will be a major theme. But it's also important to put it in the context of where we are today. And if you look at the Indian market today, at least in terms of internet consumption, it's still very heavily web-based and very heavily laptop and PC-based. Now, this is obviously going to change, and so if you're doing anything to prepare for the future, you should be thinking about your mobile and tablet strategies. The problem, though, is that when you do think about mobile and tablet, there is a huge element of complexity. In the older days, it was easy to build one experience for the web or maybe two for a Mac and a PC. Today, for a service to reach a sort of effective critical mass across devices, 9 different experiences have to be built. You have to build for laptops, tablets, and mobiles, but you also have to build for the iOS platform, the Google platform, and the Microsoft platform. And when we talk about the eventual fourth screen coming into the fray, the television, there's a whole nother level of complexity when you have all the different operating systems and connected boxes. And so for someone like us who builds platforms for people to be exposed to content, whether it be news or audio or whatever it may be, there's a big hurdle in terms of what you have to do, in terms of the experiences you have to build. Now, the one potential saving grace is HTML5. Now, HTML5 is a code base that is meant to operate across platforms and mimic what an app does. Now, it's not there yet, but in India especially, if you're thinking about a cross-platform strategy, you should seriously consider HTML5 because as devices fragment, and believe me, there'll be more fragmentation in India than any other market when you think about all the cheap Android phones at the bottom end of the market, having that uniformity across those platforms will be a crucial part of your success. So for us, those are the three major changes that we're seeing in storage, discovery, and consumption. So let's jump into the medium. So in music, one of the biggest moves we made as a group in 2011 was launching a platform called Gaana.com, which was a digital music streaming service for India. And there are a couple other digital music streaming services in India, but the way we sort of felt Gaana fit a market need was that it was less oriented towards finding a specific song and listening to it. I heard a song on the radio and I go online and I find it. But saying, can we make the digital experience oriented around the discovery itself? And so what you'll see here is you've got an easy navigation on the left side of different categories like new releases or genres. But on the right side, very prominently, you have a social feed telling you what your friends are listening to or most recently have listened to on the site. And if you want recommendations, we have Radio Gaana, which lets you pick one song and then get a customized radio station around it. Another move that we made that was probably a little bit different for most people's expectations was that the next device we built out was a tablet approach. And in the spirit of trying to create a potentially scalable platform, we were actually the first global HTML5 tablet music streaming service. And so this is a quick demo that sort of shows what it looks like. Now the amazing thing about this is that the whole thing exists in a browser. You can put the volume a little lower, yeah. So the whole thing lives in the browser. You can be switching tabs, you can close it and open an app, and the music still plays. And all of the core functionality that was built in the website was ported into an HTML5 experience oriented around touch, oriented around a tablet-like consumption. And so you've got everything from navigating through genres and playlists and new releases. You can even store songs that you loved or playlists that you loved across the PC and the tablet. And again, that social element was really important to us. So here, if you notice, what's about to show up is that same social graph where I see all of my friends, half of them are here in the audience, and what they've listened to, what they've saved, their favorites, the songs they favorited and whatnot. And then we've also taken this idea of recommendations and social and merged them in a weird way with what we call similar people, right here, which actually shows you people who tend to consume music that's similar to yours, so you can get an ideas of other things that you might be interested in consuming. So Gaana launched in June, and we've been really fortunate that only 4 months after launch, we became the #1 music streaming service in India. Thanks. Most recently, about a week ago, we integrated Facebook's Open Graph, which we're really excited about, and the results will come in soon, hopefully, but it brings a level of virality to your content because there's less friction in terms of sharing the music. So as soon as I'm Facebook connected, what I'm listening to gets shared, and all sorts of funny insights come. I can see what Upen in the audience is listening to here, or maybe he doesn't necessarily want it, but overall it creates this community orientation around music consumption. Because Gaana is a web app, and it's a free web app, we've had to get really creative about thinking about how we integrate advertising. Because at the end of the day, we need a business model to make this product work. And so what it forced us to do, though, is think a little bit less about ad spots and placements and CPMs and spot buys, and think about creating engagement in the core functionality of the service. And so what you see here is just one idea where Colgate has been able to take over the search button, the progress bar, and one of the main playlist features. And when we think about where advertising is moving in terms of brand engagement, this is the kind of idea that we really get excited by because, it's less about what's the spot, what's the price, and whatnot, and it's more about how do we create engagement. And in a day when there's so much noise, how do we get you to engage in a way that you're happy to engage? And so obviously, on a click of anything, you sort of get a prominent creative about it. So the next steps for Gaana for us are to move to the mobile platform, obviously. But we've been a little bit slower about rolling it out because we want to make sure that that experience is really curated and perfect before we launch it. But rest assured, our orientation is towards making a music service that Indians can access across devices with a consistent, synchronized experience around it all. So the other area of entertainment is video. And for us, video is especially important because we really feel Indians love video. Despite the fact that we have really crappy bandwidth and we have really low connection speeds, we're the 4th largest video market in the world. And that really says something because if you imagine what happens when better connectivity does come, there's huge scale here for it. Now, if you look at the content mix of what's really available for Indians today in content, you've got three basic categories. You've got this huge influx of user-generated content where hours of content are made almost every minute, and it's a really meaningful, it's a really meaningful chunk. Then you've got a lot of made-for-web content like how-to videos or webisodes or whatnot. And then sort of at the top end of the period, you've got music videos, movie clips, and TV clips. And to be very honest, the reason that most of this is actually short-form oriented is the fact that connections haven't necessarily allowed us to create meaningful long-form experiences. But we're starting to see a change, and the way we're looking at the world now is a little bit different, where we think there's this fourth potential category, which we stupidly call super premium content. And super premium content for us is about movies in full length, it's about TV shows in full length, it's about domestic and international sports and sporting events. And for us, it's exciting because we think that this can be a place where brands that are looking to look at the digital space as not a cheap experience, but a really rich one, can potentially find outlets. So the biggest activity for us in this premium space today has been IPL. Now, for those of you who are not from India, IPL is about cricket, and I'm learning it myself, having only moved here a few years ago. But cricket is kind of the sport in India, and IPL is the event of cricket. And so last year we worked with YouTube, and we're doing so again this year to co-distribute it, and we've actually had great success with it on the web platforms. Despite the fact that IPL has had questions in other forums, we've continued to see pretty consistent and dramatic growth. And last year, we bought the rights 10 days before the event started, which meant that we really didn't get a lot of time to do creative work around it. We sort of just got it up. And despite that, we saw meaningful growth. This year, we're going to take it to a very different level. And so these are just some of the engagement statistics about last year. The time spent is really an amazing part of it. But this year, we're going to take it a little bit further because we've had the time to prepare. And so this is a little bit of a screenshot of what IPL 2012 will look like. And I want to highlight a couple of the cool features that at least I'm really excited about. First is you've got your major player and your sharing functionality, and that's important. But we've actually made the experience more engaging with what we like to call a video scorecard. And what a video scorecard does is as the match is progressing live, I can quickly see the main events without leaving the page. So as a 4 or a 6 or a wicket happens, that timeline will update with that button. And when I click on that button, I won't leave the page, but I'll get the details of what's happened, and I can watch that specific clip. So it's a feature, but it matters to us because it's really about engagement. And this is a way that we can keep users engaged and say we have a really differentiated experience from what you're able to do on linear broadcast. The second way that we're really about engagement is about the community. So last year, we integrated Facebook comments with our player, and it was incredible the amount of feedback we got. We had about a comment a second during matches on average. And this year, we're trying to take community to a very different level. We've created what we call IPL Battleground, which is a space where people can root for their teams and support their teams because we found that was the feedback that people gave the most in the Facebook comments. But we've actually given you ways to visually do that as well, where you can applause for your team or throw a tomato at the competitor, and there's a constant sort of back and forth momentum that'll happen. Now, IPL is great because there's so much consistent traffic. It gives us a critical mass that's needed to do some of these social experiments. And then for those that missed the match, we've built a really nice navigator of video-on-demand clips where you can sort of figure out what you want to watch, see previous highlights sorted by team. And this is really about function more than anything, but it's a nice experience. Cricket has been a big part of what we've done in the last year, but it's not the only thing in terms of sports. We've worked with the English Premier League, the NBA, and the Commonwealth Games to help bring their content into digital platforms. And again, as the underwriting theme for us, we think of these sports, despite not necessarily having as much traction as cricket, as super premium in their sort of orientation. But there's still a gap, right? There's still not a really easy way to identify and find what is super premium content. And that's why for us, I'm really excited because today I get to announce a product that will hopefully launch in the next couple of weeks, but it's been in the making for us for a long time, which is called Box TV. Now, Box TV, in a very simple term, is aiming to be the Hulu or Netflix for India. But it is for India. We've done things that are very unique to it. Here's a quick video snapshot showing you a little bit about the functionality. It's about a really rich premium experience. There's white space, broad graphics. And again, the intent is to say the web is not a cheap place. This is a place where meaningful interactions in a really positive way can happen. You've got 4 major ways of navigating, which is recency, popularity, recommendations for you, and what your friends are doing, which we think are the major ways people consume. And every individual clip or video, because we get a curated experience, can have rich metadata, a lot of background details. Every movie has clips associated with it, which really gives, when we don't have to deal with millions of content partners, it gets a lot easier to make the experience special. In the player itself, there's a lot of functionalities and features that people are used to, but we've added some bells and whistles to make it, again, a nicer experience. You've got a lights on and lights off mode, which helps you replicate the feeling of a theater. Obviously, subtitles and bitrate changes are also available. One cool thing that we've also built is a global language filter. So on any given page, India is a country where you have a lot of different languages. But with this, no matter what page I'm on, I can see that page filtered to a specific language. And again, we've built the product social first. I think one of the best points that Pete said, and I think you'll see it consistently in my presentation, is it's important to be social by design. I think you'll get a certain level of success when you think of social like a plugin. You build a strategy, you plug in social. But if you're able to think of your strategies as social by design, you can create really unique experiences. And I think both with Gaana and Box TV, hopefully you're getting a sense that we've tried to bring social into the core part of the product rather than as a periphery add-on. So Box TV is coming soon. Don't have an official launch date yet. There's a couple other dependencies that are in play. But rest assured, when we do launch it, you will hear about it, and we'll have a lot more feedback around what we'll be adding to it as well in terms of content partners. And it's a really exciting project, but I at least wanted to give a little bit of a preview about it. So, entertainment, 3 basic themes. Storage, it's about the cloud. There's a move to the cloud. Discovery, it's less about finding something offline and then listening or watching it online, but actually using online as an experience to discover new content. And then consumption, it's about this eventual move towards across devices, while still understanding where we are today. So now if I ask you what were the hottest things in India in 2011, you would get very different responses. Some of you might say Vidya Balan, some might say Yana Gupta, some might say Katrina Kaif, and probably the more internet-savvy ones might say Poonam Pandey. But for the nerdy venture capitalist, a lot of people in this audience, let's be honest, it's about e-commerce, right? And e-commerce in 2011 was the buzziest thing around. Every e-commerce company got funded, and there was 100 companies that were going to become the next big thing. 2012 is going to be different. 2012 is going to be about consolidation. You're going to see the bigger fish eating the little fish. And really, it's going to be about performance in a meaningful way. It's not going to be about just what your top line is, but are you able to create a scalable, critical business? It's going to be a perform or die market. Supply chain management is going to become a crucial part of any success strategy, both in terms of sourcing, warehousing, and eventual logistics and fulfillment. But all 3 of these, if you're not really focused on these as an e-commerce player, you're done. So there's also an element of critical mass to make a business that's actually scalable. And from our standpoint, having looked at a lot of data and our own metrics, for us, this is sort of what we see. 4,000 daily transactions at about 2,500 rupees. Again, assuming that you're not selling goods at a throwaway price, you're selling them at a normal margin. So this is about 1 crore a day of business, or $200,000 a day. And assuming that you're having reasonable profitability on the margin, at this point you can say you're a potentially really scalable business.